Hello, and welcome to another update video about Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin has shown a little bit of selling pressure today, or experienced a bit of selling pressure. We're fighting for the 60K mark right now, and I really only want to give you an intraday update, short-term update, because I'm preparing for our weekly live stream, which always happens every Sunday at 5 p.m. UTC. Today in our live stream, I want to talk a little bit about tactics. Tactically speaking, how can, in general, people deal with that situation, after such a strong sell-off that we had? Is it wise to panic sell? What can be done to avoid the need for panic selling? Things like that. That is part of our live stream today. If that interests you, check out the membership. You can always re-watch the recording later as well if you watch this video here a little later. What are we dealing with? I mean, that move down certainly looks more and more as if we are dealing with either still this wave 4, even though that is quite a protracted wave 4. I think the blue count is more likely, but I did say that already earlier today, that we are possibly coming down in this ABC structure. But even if this C wave, quick explanation. Yeah, we're dealing here with two structures that are bullish. All right, so that need to be careful with that word. Two structures that show the potential for further upside. Yeah, as long as certain conditions are met, the main benefit of the analysis is that we know what the parameters are. Okay, which parameters does the price need to respect to keep going and keep adhering to one roadmap? Important to note that probably around this time, maybe a little later, a lot of volatility could come in due to the weekly candle close. And I'm tracking here a possible 5-wave move up in the white scenario. That's the directly bullish scenario. Yeah, if you want to call it like that. The wave 4, larger degree wave 4, bottomed on Monday, and then we have a wave 1, a wave 2 in an impulsive structure. That's the white count. We have a wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this third wave. The problem with that structure is that this fourth wave is getting very, very protracted. It doesn't really look like an impulse anymore, and therefore I think the blue count is getting more likely, but we'll get to that in a minute. We could then still see a fifth wave up in a third wave, and the third wave should get to 66,850, the 1.38 extension, and then we can still watch for another 4-5 pattern. But in the short term, obviously the question is, okay, is it an impulse, or is it maybe this diagonal pattern, which I already talked about in the previous video, in which wave 1 is a 3-wave move, A, B, C, and then this third wave, which also in a diagonal should get to 66,850, would be an A, B, C structure, yeah? And the B wave just can go a little lower. And the invalidation point for this scenario is the swing low that formed on Wednesday, which is 54,600 pretty much. So that means to keep, whether it's a diagonal or an impulse, to keep this upside wave structure alive, that level on Wednesday really needs to hold. Doesn't mean we have to test it, but in a diagonal, we would have to accept the price to get there. Even though that seems less like, if we get there and test it, it likely will break. So ideally, we are not even getting there. In the short term, I'm tracking now a move to the downside locally here, which seems like an A, B, C structure. And that could be an ABC structure in wave 4, even though, as I said, this is getting quite protracted. That would be the impulsive count. Or it seems like here the B wave down in the blue count, which is the diagonal. In both wave counts, we could watch for higher prices. And in the very short term, however, we still seem to have a little bit more downside left to do. We'll see. This wave count is prone to changing, to changes, because it could even turn into a large triangle. It's just all corrective. So earlier today on Discord, I already posted that over the weekend, Bitcoin has only been moving sideways. The sideways structure that has developed over the last 24 hours could easily represent wave B in blue. And we saw that when the possible B wave had topped up here, yeah? So since then, the market did come down quite a bit. And I highlighted that further indication that wave B has topped would be a break below 60,400. Now, since then, the price has dipped further, but it's still fighting with the 60K mark. Looking at the very short term, I mean, this is not really reliable, but this is sort of a valid roadmap right now to the downside. We could say that this might be a 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, maybe even wave 1 sits here and we see a bit of a wave 2 corrective rally. Have to definitely allow for that. But all that means is that as long as the intraday high is holding, which is up here, 61,830, the move to the downside could still unfold. We could be in this move to the downside of wave C of B. And it is possible that wave 1 bottomed and we now start wave 2. Maybe wave 1 already bottomed and wave 2 was shallow, but we don't really have enough downside pressure for that. Yeah, if this really was a third wave down, it should be quite aggressive, or it should start right now. So I think we might see a bit of a corrective rally in wave 2 potentially. But yeah, please be aware, this is just microstructure, micro counting, so it can easily still change. Bottom line is, we could still be in a C wave to the downside, possibly targeting 58,774 or 58,500, which are the next key support levels, as long as we stay below the intraday high. Any break above this 61,850 level could indicate that we've started the next move to the upside. Overall, the structure hasn't really changed over the weekend. It's just sideways action. Maybe a 5-wave move down. But as I said, even then we could get a bit of a corrective rally there. Not very clear in the short term, I would say. And that means be on the side of caution, be a bit careful. And maybe on the way down, a nice channel or something comes up, something that allows us to draw trend lines. At the moment, we only really have 2 touch points there. I don't find that very reliable. But if we get maybe an impulsive channel down or something, and we get to the end of this C wave, I think then we could look for a possible reversal to the upside, and might even be interesting then to look for long positions. This here is just a big chop that happened over the weekend, especially this here. So it's just a random up and down, forming lower highs and higher lows at the moment, which is always horrible to trade really if you're, unless you're a range trader. But even then, we didn't really have a very well-defined range here. So just be a bit careful there. But that's the update about Bitcoin. Hope you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then please check out the channel membership. Also, make sure that you follow us on Instagram and Twitter for additional content. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.